Johnny Test, Johnny Test, this is the life of a boy named Johnny Test. Remember him? Whenever I hear people talk about like early Cartoon Network, it is always about Ben 10, Codename Kids Next Door, Billy and Mandy, Samurai Jack, and I've even seen a good bit about the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Don't get me wrong, Flapjack is a great show, I love it, but I always was under the impression that Johnny Test was more popular than Flapjack. But for some reason, everyone always leaves him out of the conversation. I don't get it. If you don't remember Johnny Test, I genuinely feel bad for you, because if I had to go my entire life without witnessing Bling Bling Boy,
it is I, Bling Bling Boy,
I probably would have turned into a serial killer or something. Originally, this was going to be a video of me going back and getting a bit of nostalgia, going back and watching the old show. El Google told me that Johnny Test is on Netflix, surprisingly, so I went to give it a watch to, take some notes and try make a funny little video out of it. But immediately upon clicking on play, I realised something was very, very wrong. First of all, it comes up saying that it's a Netflix original. The fuck it is. That is blasphemous behaviour, but I let it slide. But not even a minute in, I then realised something else was completely wrong. The theme song. But I took a big old hit of copium and just came to a weird conclusion that maybe they just swapped out the theme song and shit like that. So I came to the realisation what was at play here, and I was stunned. The show that I was watching was a fucking reboot of Johnny Test from 2022. When did that happen? Why didn't I hear anything about it? And after I realised that, I completely decided to change this video up. Instead of just going back and watching the original show, I decided why not watch the reboot and then watch the original show to see just how different they really are. I was quite baffled when I started to watch the reboot and they jump you into the show straight away with some wacky shenanigans as if you already know who these characters are. In this, he runs into the room to his twin sisters within the first 5 seconds and starts asking them to build a robot of mom and dad so he can bring them to his parent-teacher meeting. And then we get a little quick cut montage as to why he needs this. And we see him freeing fucking frogs. He done another thing that I can't remember because my brain couldn't compute fast enough before something else happened. And the last thing I remember him doing is taking his pants off and flying it on a flagpole. And the reason he does all of this is because he took the phrase, if you love it, set it free, too literally. Since when is Johnny an actual imbecile? But after Johnny asked them to replicate their parents as robots, it turns out the sisters already have some in the bag. But this is where shit goes off the rails a little bit, because this episode in particular is 15 minutes long, if even. The original episodes were typical episodes, like 22 to 25 minutes long. So keep that in mind for what I'm about to read off to you. So it starts off pretty typical. Johnny goes out with the mom robot. They go to their parent-teacher meeting. The teacher says something that Mamaton does not like, so she karate chops the desk, which for some reason he just takes on the chin and, accepts it. Johnny, Dookie and Mamaton then go on a little montage of having fun at parks and getting lots of ice cream and shit, making Johnny believe that she is better than his actual mother. They get home and they have to hide Mamaton from his actual parents. And I want to bring something up here. The father in this show is an absolute fucking idiot. I do not remember him being this dumb in the original show. I could be wrong though, but to get his father to stop suspecting that he's up to something, he basically tells him to go up and clean his room, Johnny's room, and his father listens and does it. And then 2 minutes later, he screams,
wait a minute, I don't clean your room, you do!
Ha 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 ha. And there's multiple instances of that in the show. It's so stupid. But basically, to avoid his parents seeing the robot, he pushes the robot and Dookie into a closet. And when he goes back to open said closet, Dookie is dead. Just fully unconscious on the ground. And that's because Dookie said to Johnny's robot mother, they need to stay as quiet as possible. So she made him be as quiet as possible by fucking killing him. But while Johnny is talking to the robot, his father starts walking down the stairs. And in a panic, he basically tells the robot to leave and go and do something. The one thing that the sisters stipulated with this was that Johnny brings the robot back right away. And when he tells them they freak out because Johnny let the robot out on its own. They then turn on the TV to instantly see that the mother is going on an assault and robbery rampage. And for some reason, their excellent idea on how to fix this problem and get this robot to come back home is to release the other robot they have of their father, for some reason. And this is truly when shit goes off the rails and gets very fucking wacky, right? Stay with me here, this is gonna be quick. When Johnny, Dookie and Robot Dad come into contact with Robot Mom, he just walks straight up to her and says that he needs to shut her down, to which she responds, "I don't want to be shut down," and spouts Doc Ock arms and starts terrorizing the neighborhood and blows the Robo-Dad to smithereens. She then holds Johnny captive and almost blows up the fucking police. And for some reason, Johnny then goes on a spiel talking about how he now appreciates his real mother, even though she has done things to him that he sees as unfair. And he goes on this spiel for a little bit saying like, "Oh, I realize now, I was wrong. Yeah, we had fun because you let me do everything I wanted, but maybe that's not okay. Maybe I shouldn't be allowed to do everything I wanted." And for some fucking reason, unbeknownst to me, it fucking works. And she drops her guard and flies off with the kids. So all it took to stop this rampaging fucking clanker was to say how much you appreciate your real mother in comparison to it. Yeah, because that makes sense. And while flying home, she also says that she can clear his real mother of any crime that she committed. And get this, do you want to know how she does it? She does it with a bit of handy dandy video editing. She goes through all of the footage of her committing these atrocities and puts a 3D elephant in it instead. And for some reason, the general public accept that. Even the news anchor comes on to apologize. He was wrong. It was actually an elephant instead of a random woman going around terrorizing people. It's just, this whole world is just full of fucking idiots, man. After they run away, she flees to an island with Robo-Dad's head, and the episode ends with them sitting down enjoying a nice sunset. And that was the end of the episode. All of that I have just discussed, from when Johnny left to go and get the mother back to what happened there, all happened in the span of 3 fucking minutes. And this is where like I'm starting to have a bit of existential dread, because I don't know if I'm just old now or if that was just the most ADHD filled episode of a show I have ever fucking experienced. And I have ADHD. I'm riddled with the fucking thing. Everything just happens. You know, it all makes sense in the original show. We see why we got there. We see how we got there. We see how Johnny deals with it and the lesson he gets at the end. What lesson did he get here? That he loves his mother? Why? Because the robot he tried to replace her with went on a rampage and nearly destroyed the entire city. If that's the rude awakening you need to come to that realization that you love your mother, you're a lost cause. Like, holy shit. But like, people might be wondering, how did I mix up a reboot for the original show, right? And look at these 2 images. You tell me which is the original and which is the, you know, new one. They look fucking identical. Like, it's crazy. Like, reboots usually, especially, I'll use Ben 10 as an example here. Ben 10's reboot completely changed the art style, but with Johnny Test, they didn't do that because they actually stuck to what the original show looked like, you know, character-wise and stuff like that. Even the voice of Dookie doesn't sound bad. Like, it actually sounds like the original Dookie did. And like, I will give it some praise for that because it did stick to what the original looked like, you know? Like, it actually still looks like Johnny Test, and that's more than I can say for a lot of other reboots that come out lately. Like, who the fuck is this kid? Like, that's not Ben Tennyson. It just isn't. But here I am again going on a rant. Right, I'll stop. But basically, what I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to go and watch an original episode of Johnny Test, and I'll be back in a jiffy to see if what I said in this video is correct.
A few moments later.
So I'm just out there watching an episode from the original show, and unfortunately, I could only find, like, season 5. In like 1080p. You know, I wanted to make things fair. I wanted to watch the first episode of the original show just so I can compare the first episode of the reboot to it, but it was only in 380p. So that's not happening. But upon rewatching it, I've come to some realizations, to say the least. First of all, I've come to the realization that the reboot is not that far off of it, in all fairness. It's a lot closer than I gave it credit for, at least. And I completely forgot that old Cartoon Network shows, and Johnny Test as well, a lot of them have 2 episodes in a single episode. So the first 10 minutes is one episode and the next 10 minutes is another episode. I completely forgot about that for some reason. So just to keep it fair, I just watched the first half of an original episode. And I have some things to say, because first of all, it was fantastic. I thought it was a great episode. It was really fun. Pretty much the episode revolves around Johnny finally being of age to enter into something called the squirrel race, which is where a bunch of hungry squirrels chase people who have nuts on them and they have to run away from them. His mother doesn't want him to enter into this, so she keeps doing a lot of elaborate things, like nailing boards to his door so he can't get out. She even goes as far as making a moat outside of his bedroom window with live fucking sharks in the thing. But before I continue explaining the episode, I want to talk about a few little things that I caught on to. First of all, I didn't expect the first episode I go back to rewatch of Johnny Test was going to start with nuts. You know? Like, it might be actual nuts, but that's still funny. And one of the first lines of said episode had me chuckling like a madman. Not because the joke itself was funny, but because I'm a dirty-minded freak. The line goes as follows.
In just 1 hour, hundreds of brave, age-appropriate pork bellions will run for their lives as thousands of squirrels run for their nuts.
Nice. Like, while I was rewatching this episode, it did give me, a good bit of respect for the reboot of Johnny Test, because they did stay faithful to the original in a lot of ways, like they didn't do it as well. Like, it is only an episode versus an episode, so I can't say too much. The gravy is there, if you get me. Because one thing in the reboot that kept catching my eye and kept catching my attention was the abundance of sound effects. Every time they moved their hands, anytime they done anything, there was like a slap sound effect. But that is something that they pulled from the original show. But like, there are a few things that I noticed, right? Like the dad, for example. In the original show, he is still a fucking idiot, don't get me wrong. But in this episode, just like I remember it being for all the ones that I've watched in the past, he was very funny. He wasn't like, he was still very stupid, but the things that happened to him and the way, like the slapstick nature of it, I guess, the way it is executed is genuinely still very funny. Like at the start of this episode, we find out that he is going to be the mascot, the leading mascot for the parade, for the nut run. And straight off the bat, he gets accidentally turned around in his suit, so he's facing the wrong way and he can't see. So the rest of the episode is him trying to make his way back to the front of the parade and just ends up in a series of unfortunate events. But back to the show, one thing I noticed is I laughed a lot more, even though this episode is like, 5 minutes shorter than the reboot. I actually got at least 4 to 5 laughs out of the fucking thing. It was funny, and I'll give you an example for this. On the news, when they're talking about the squirrel run, they are showing highlights from previous, squirrel run activities, and then we see one that involves the news anchor himself.
I don't have any nuts! I was told they weren't going to show that last one.
That had me giggling, I'm not gonna lie, but there's more. Johnny and Dookie hatch a plan to get him out of his room by saying to his mother that Dookie needs to go take a piss. Once outside, Dookie then scales a tree and infiltrates Johnny's room and breaks him out. But it doesn't last very long because they instantly drive into their mother's car. The mother, being fed up with their shy, sellotapes them to lawn chairs and puts them in front of the house so they can watch the parade go by. And this is where we have another haha, another funny.
Since I love you, you may sit here and watch your father tarnish the family name. But that's it. No squirrel run.
Sit there and watch your father tarnish the family name. I bet you any money that's the type of shit my family are going to be talking about me. I even put in my notes here, another knee slapper. Right you are. Damn. Fuck. Ah. Ooh, I hit the tip of my finger off my desk. Ooh. Fine, I'm big, I'm grown, I'm a big man, big strong manly man. Now while Johnny and Dookie are there trying to figure out a way out of this mess, the twins show up for the first time in the episode, which is kind of crazy. We're halfway through. Twins show up and basically just start talking shit to Johnny about how he can't get away from their mother. They just start talking about how easy it is for them to fool their mother, and their mother would never be able to sellotape them the way that they did to these two. But unfortunately for the gals, the mother is standing right behind them and heard everything, and then proceeds to do the exact same thing to them that she done to Johnny. The twins then somehow, I don't know how, but they did it, turned Johnny's chair into a rocket, which Johnny and Dookie used to fly away into the night. But unlucky for them, their mother is a witch and whips out a fucking broom that turns into a rocket. She flies away after them and engages them in a dogfight. I shit you not, she genuinely tries to shoot down her child. But with the first shot she misses and quite literally blows up a jet. After committing that war crime, she eventually shoots down her child and they're back to square one. But at this stage, the mother has had enough of their bullshit and she quite literally puts them into a cage. The twins then whip out a smartwatch, which turns out to be a universal control that universally controls things, as they so eloquently put. And with this remote, they control the crane to quite literally knock an old man out of his little car. They then use it to get rid of the cage and uses it to break Johnny and Dookie free. They instantly make a beeline for the car and carjack this old man, but the mother is in hot pursuit, breaking down the door with a motorcycle ready for action. And then a huge car chase ensues. Meanwhile, this entire thing, the reason she is chasing her child, is because she wants to keep him safe.
Get back here, Johnny Test, so I can keep you safe!
But like, the chase ends with Johnny talking to the registration woman, and before he can put his name down, the mother ramps off of a big giant fucking ramp and just smashes into the stand. Luckily the woman got out of the way and the mother takes her place, but like, good God, the fucking thing exploded for fuck's sake. But Johnny turns to her and hits her with some cold hard logic.
Since this morning, I've jumped over a shark moat, had an aerial dogfight, and survived the TV-style car chase, and I'm fine!
And after getting hit with that cold logic, she accepts it and lets him go. So the boys are at the starting line, ready to get their run on, and oh, it's already over. Why did nobody run? Nobody even attempted to run. Everyone just stood there and accepted their fate. And yeah, the episode ends with Johnny and pretty much everyone else involved in the fucking race in hospital, in bad shape. Now, I want to get down to business and talk about the comparisons. Because as I said, the first episode that I talked about isn't as far off of the original as I originally gave it credit for. You know, the art style is very similar. The animation is it's a lot different animation wise, but the art style itself of the characters and the environment and stuff is pretty on par with the original. So credit where credit's due, they actually did stay true to the original in a lot of ways. The vibe and the tone as well are a lot different, you know? Like, there's a lot that the reboot got like right when it comes to the original show, but at the same time there is a lot of like modern day problems with it, you know, the jokes being really stupid, like not being funny, it's just like slapstick in a way. It's kind of just like, oh, say this, hopefully it gets a giggle from a child. Like, I'm trying to word it in a good way, but like, that's the only way I can describe it, is like, the jokes don't land. They weren't funny to me, and yes, it's only the first episode, I'm aware. Like, I can sit here for hours and just try to, you know, really get into the nitty gritty and try to decipher why I enjoyed this one compared to the reboot. It was just done better. You know, that's the only way I can say it. I'm not saying the original is a perfect show or like the best cartoon ever made or anything, but it was enjoyable for what it was. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got a little chuckle or giggle out of it. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see another type of video in this style, let me know down below, and let me know by leaving a like and a comment and sharing with people, because that helps with the algorithm. But yeah, folks, with that said, stay tuned, more to come, and yeah, I'll talk to you all in the next one. Have a good one, folks.